afternoon, councillors. I declare this meeting open. Welcome. Welcome to our officers and members of the public, and welcome to the Honourable John Castrilli, MLA, member for Bunbury. Welcome, John. Councillors, under announcements, there's a couple here. I want to note the passing of Dr. Val Lishman. Last Thursday I attended a meeting or an event in Perth to welcome the new Consul General for China, Mr. Li Keizong, and his wife, Xing Chao. Last Friday, together with the CEO, we attended the launch of the NBN network in Bunbury. I also note the pending retirement of Mr. Punch, the CEO of the South West Development Commission. He's been CEO for 18 years. Today, the CEO and I hosted a brief visit by Her Excellency the Governor, the Honourable Kerry Sanderson, who visited the Newton Moore Senior High School to present a fantastic award to that school, one of the very few. It received a State Leadership Award for Science, which was a marvellous achievement for that school and for Lorraine Ellis, the head of science there. And for the last month or so, my mayoral expenses, in addition to allowances, was for fuel, $27.39. We are all here. Declarations of interest. I have Councillor Morris, who's declaring a financial interest in item 10.2.6, and Councillor Steck is declaring a financial interest in item 10.4.1. Do we have any further declarations, councillors? Thank you. Public question time, Mr. Smith.
Mr Mayor and Councillors, the first question tonight is, given that the inflation rate for 2015-2016 is likely to be less than 2%, and with the sale of Council's real estate assets, why is Council proposing to increase rates by 3.5% in 2016-17, plus of course the 1% for infrastructure? 2. What has been the percentage increase in councillor attendance fees and mayoral fees and allowances in each year since 2004-05? And 3, is it correct that any grants to community groups in 2016-17 and subsequent years will be decided by the Grants Committee and the CEO and will not come to Council for final approval?
Thank you. CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In relation to question 1, the proposed rate increase is consistent with Council's long-term finance plan and strategy. Question 2, I have the table there. However, given the extensive information provided, I'll deal with that as correspondence and provide you a copy of that, Mr Smith. Question 3, the approval process has not changed since being adopted by Council last year on the 31st of March 2015.
Thank you. So I'm prepared to move the confirmation of the previous minutes with one amendment. Liz, have you got that amendment? The last, it's on there. So is someone prepared to move with that amendment, please? Councillor Cook, Councillor Jones, all in favour? That's carried unanimously, thank you. Minutes of the advisory committees. There are 3. Someone prepared to move those 3? Be Councillor Hayward, Councillor Kelly, all in favour? That's carried unanimously, thank you. Councillors, we have requests tonight to do some presentations. Mr Scafidi wishes to make a presentation to item 10.2.5. Those who consent, please indicate. That's approved. Mr Smith seeks leave approval to speak to items 10.2.7 and 10.3.1. Those who consent, please indicate. Those who don't, that request is denied. Mr Scafidi, when I get to your item, I'll invite you to come forward. Under the delegates' report, there's that report from the CEO on the Mixed Use Development Conference. That is an excellent report and gives us good information to think about as we go forward, particularly if we proceed with the civic cultural precinct. Someone prepared to move that recommendation that we receive and note it. Thanks, Councillor Giles. Seconder. Councillor Hayward, all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. So, councillors, coming out so far is 10.2.5, 10.2.6, 10.2.7, 10.4.1. Are there any other items that anyone wishes to raise? Councillor Steele? 10.2.3. 10.2.3. Anyone else? Councillor Stick?
Thank you, sir. While I note that I can't get out of the contract for disposal of Lot 66 Ocean Drive, I did warn Council several months
Councillor
ago.
Stick,
So
do you want to talk about 10.2.4?
Well, I'm either going to ask you to withdraw and put that to talk, or else I'm just going to say to you, please note that I intend to vote against that.
Right, I'll pull it out. Any further items for debating? Thank you, councillors. Someone prepared to move the balance? Thank you. Councillor Cook, Councillor Jones, all in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.2.3. We'll get there. Just bear with me for a second. So I'm prepared to move the executive recommendation. Councillor McCleary, seconder. Councillor Kelly, Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr.
Councillor
Kelly.
Speaker against, Councillor Steele.
It's not quite I have a question first. The fees and the penalties that we're going to be charging, are they increased or new? So I wasn't here last week to be able to ask this question.
Yeah, we noticed.
I was in Bali.
The local, I'll just let the CEO explain what the local law is and why we have it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council previously operated under the public health local law. The penalty and provisions within that local law ranged between $100 and $1,000 depending on the offence. It could be no less than 100, no more than 1,000, so it was within that scale. The new penalties are consistent with what's in that. However, the intent of the waste local law is to separate it out of the public health local law that we've previously had in operation and give us a dedicated local law to deal with waste management. So fees are fairly or fines and penalties are fairly consistent with what was there previously.
Okay, I'll put it all in favour. Those against? One against, that's carried. Thank you. 10.2.4, so I'm prepared to move the executive recommendation. Councillor McCleary, Councillor Hayward. Councillor McCleary? Councillor Hayward? Okay. Speaker against, Councillor Stick.
Thank you, sir. It's just that from the start of this contract and from the start of the way this went to the public, it was a convoluted process and it should have gone out for tender. We did not do that to the market value. We went under market value. It has also been subject to the conditions that are part of the planning process, which means that when anyone else wants to buy land, they buy it and they actually absolutely then decide to put their planning conditions in, or their building application in, or their plans in, and we decide what their planning approvals are. We don't actually give them a status quo that goes, okay, you can buy this on the proviso that we're going to give you a straight shooting path towards council and we're going to give you all the conditions you want. And that's basically what we've done here. Basically, we do not have the capacity to turn around and, well, we do. Having said that, we do. We can put conditions on it, but I don't know where we actually go to sell land without going to tender, and then we turn around and say, well, look, we're going to give you automatic right of way to make sure that you get planning approval from council. Now that is crazy stuff. That's all I'm trying to say.
Further speaker 4. Councillor McCleary, do you want to close?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We did give our CEO authorisation for an offer and acceptance. It was accepted. We are down a little, $200,000. We will make that up in rates, and I am very supportive of having a development happening in Bunbury, so I hope that you'll support this. Thank you.
You'll put it all in favour? Those against? 3 against. That's carried. Thank you. 1025, Mr Scafidi, welcome. Do you want to come to the microphone here? You have 5 minutes. There's a clock here.
5 minutes. That's plenty. Mr Mayor, thanks very much. I belong to a group, we call ourselves a Greater Bunbury Progress Group. We meet on a monthly and we talk about politics, we talk about this, we talk about that, and don't actually solve very much. But last week we had a meeting and discussed the rating for this coming year, and we all decided that was a little bit too much with what's been happening in the whole system. Everything's gone backwards, and we actually oppose it. We're not agreeing with the increase of payments to councillors by 38%. We think that that's over the board, and I don't think you've made a decision on that. But just some of the issues that are happening with land tax going up, and house apartments and rentals prices are coming down. The whole system Australia-wide is declining, and I think we all need to look at that situation and address it. Also, commercial tenants are struggling in many cases. There's a lot of empty shops and a lot of things there. I myself have held any increases at all this year to my tenants, and I think it's important that we help the system and support the system as we go along. We'd be happy to, CPI is a figure that maybe in times like this should be adopted by council, and we support that very, very much. And actually I'd like to comment by Mr Brennan saying that he will not seek any change in his fees and allowance, and sincerely hope that all other councillors will follow the praiseworthy lead given the present situation. I'm not here to rail or oppose anybody, but I'm here for a little bit of common sense and seeing the situation as it is and adopt to that situation and support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillors, is someone prepared to move Executive Recommendation 1A, which enables Councillor Cook moves?
No, sorry, Mr Mayor. We've jumped a couple of things. We're dealing with 10.2.7, are we? Yeah, well,
You want to move that we recommence debate on this, Councillor Cook? Thank you. I thought that's what you're doing. Councillor McGuinness, are you seconding? Or Councillor Giles is? All in favour? That's unanimous. Executive Recommendation 1B. Someone prepared to move that? Councillor McCleary, is there a seconder? Councillor McGraw, Councillor McCleary.
At this time, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor McGraw.
just quickly, Mr Mayor, even though the wording of the executive recommendation isn't exactly how I'd like it with the not support the funding, but I know what's coming up, the fact that there's going to be some movers to support that we put in put an amount there, whether a kilometre or a certain amount, but I just think we need to really think about this. If we commit to some paths, obviously we've had our presentation last week from our staff. They've got the plan in play. They've basically set up what we needed to do. We've got a replacement plan and a repair plan in play, and obviously the new footpaths will come later on. I think if we go start messing around with that and trying to put in extra stuff, which we simply cannot afford, it'd be very unwise. It's similar to what we talked about. Obviously, we've got our assets issue at the moment. It's not going to be fixed overnight, but this is a long-term process, and I think we should put our trust in our engineering staff to allow it to go ahead with what they've planned, and that's why we're supporting this.
Thank you. Speaker against, Councillor Hayward.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I would like to foreshadow an alternative motion. I've been convinced that perhaps 1 kilometre is better than 2 and more affordable. I think it's unacceptable as a local government that we simply do not expand our path network. It is affordable. I believe it can be paid for by a rejigging of the renewal program, so maybe we have to keep a few of the old footpaths for a bit longer. And maybe that process, instead of being all solved in 8 years, might take 12 or 15 years to get through. The average life expectancy of a footpath is around 60 years, so I don't think there's a great rush out and pull up all those slabs. I was down at walking yesterday in Nedlands along the Stirling Highway and was walking on square slabs. I've been there for a long time, and I think that we can afford it. I think that we owe it to our ratepayers to provide some new footpathing for them, and I think to have to wait the length of time that's being proposed is unacceptable, and I think over the next 15 years, if we don't make a commitment to move forward, we won't see that happen. If my alternative motion does get up, if I get that opportunity, we would see 15 new kilometres over the next 15 years, which I think is a significant step forward for the city. So please.
I'll second that, sir.
We're not dealing with it yet. We're dealing with this motion here. Is there a speaker for the executive recommendation?
Mr Mayor,
yes, Councillor.
It relates to a motion being in the negative.
Do you want to?
A motion is it's preferable that motions are not in the negative.
Yes, it's a good point of order. I think we all understand, I believe we all understand where this is, what the intent here is, and I did have a discussion with the Deputy Mayor earlier. I don't know if you've been able to wordsmith an amendment to this particular matter, Councillor Kelly, or not.
Mr Mayor, I have provided the Minute Secretary with an alternative motion, but my understanding is that Councillor Hayward's will precede that.
Okay.
So
yeah, Councillor Jones, you're quite right, but we'll deal with this as we go along. Is there a speaker for? Councillor McCleary, would you wish to close?
Mr Mayor, I find it very disconcerting that we can spend money without really having any idea where it's going to come from. We've been told and advised by our financial advisors over here that we can't afford new footpathing, and yet we're talking about increasing it, even though a kilometre, I think it would be really wonderful. But if there's any way of deferring this to find out how we can fit that into the budget, I would prefer to go that way. So at the moment, I cannot support an alternative motion, and I support this one as it is at the moment.
Okay, I'll put it all in favour, please indicate. Those against? That's lost. Councillor Hayward, you indicated an alternative.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My alternative that I'm proposing is that the Council commit to expanding the local footpath network by 1 kilometre each year over the 15-year period. As I mentioned before, I believe there can be funds, about $250,000 a year. It's a significant amount of money, but given our budget of 30 million in rates each year, it's actually a very insignificant amount largely when compared to that figure. I think that we need to, I accept some of the arguments that other councillors put earlier, that our guys have done a great job in terms of coming up with a plan, but I believe that it's up to us to show the leadership direction, and I believe that that our staff will be able to go away and provide a path forward, literally, that would be able to provide this 1 kilometre each year over the 15-year period. As I said, it may need a rejigging of the replacement program. I think the replacement program might have been a little bit ambitious in terms of trying to get it all squared away. And I can understand that potentially the replacement plan is to limit the council's risk in terms of those older footpaths. But as I said, I was walking on a footpath in Netherlands right next to Stirling Highway, fairly busy place in Perth, still had square pavement there, slabs there. So I think that we can afford it. I think it's important that we show the leadership and we make a commitment, and what we'll see is over the next 15-year period a moderate growth, or over 15 years will be a big growth in footpathing. So I'd urge you to support it. Thank you.
Councillor Steck, did you indicate you seconded this amendment?
Yes, sir.
Councillor Hayward, a question. You haven't identified a source of funds, and the other observation I would make is that we can't commit future councils to that. Do you want to think about the wording to that? We are not in a position to commit future councils to do what you're asking here. We can commit to the next 12 months, but not for 15 years.
I did actually pop an email through to the CEO, and I did think that the staff were going to propose something that was written a little tidier than that one, so I do apologise for that.
Well, take a seat. I'll ask the CEO, if you can, Councillor Keller.
I do have a proposal for B to add to this, which may take care of that.
Okay, let's hear it. Yep.
B, A being subject to funds being made available within the existing parts budget year by year.
We'll just get Liz to put that in there. So, Councillor Hayward, are you happy with that? I'll treat it as an amendment if you're not. You look uncomfortable.
I'm uncomfortable. It's not about grant funding. My suggestion is that... Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Excuse me, councillors, I'll consult with the CEO. Read that out. See if Councillor Hayward. Just take a seat, Councillor Giles. We're wordsmithing one of your favourite topics.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think the appropriate wording may be that Council amend the asset management plan to include expansion of the path network by 1 kilometre per annum. By including it as part of the asset management plan, we'll find the funding for it each year as part of the overall asset management process.
Fantastic.
So that'll become your motion, and Councillor Steck, we'll get that up. Councillor Hayward and Councillor Steck have agreed that that will be their motion, Liz, so you can cut and paste.
And also, sir, that should be part of the asset management plan, sir.
Yeah, the asset management plan is mentioned there, Councillor Steck.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Hayward, you've spoken already. Do you want to just finish off, and I'll ask Councillor Steck if she wishes to speak. You'll have a Councillor Steck.
Yes, sir, and I would commend Councillor Hayward for putting this amendment forward, because there is a lot of people in this city that have been waiting 20 years for footpaths, and quite rightly said, we can just deal with what we've got for a little while and give the ratepayers what they want, and that's, we are fundamentally about roads, rubbish, footpaths and community. So thank you, Councillor Hayward. And I commend the motion to all councillors.
Speaker against.
I have a question.
Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We're putting aside 1% asset management, right? Would the CEO be able to tell us exactly how much that 1% is in dollars and cents?
It's about $360,000.
So would I be right in saying that 1/3 is going to be put away each year for this?
$260,000, 2/3.
2/3.
But the intent, Councillor McCleary, is that it will be included in the asset management plan. However, my interpretation that means all path network throughout the entire city. So already we do footpaths in Withers, we do footpaths in other subdivisions, and we do footpaths repairs and replacement. So that's all included in that.
Just one more question,
Sure.
please, Mr Mayor. But I do believe Councillor Hayward did say $100,000 for 1 kilometre of footpath.
No, 250, 260.
So we're going to take that out of, I'm not good at my maths, so come and do the maths for me, the 1%, which is?
We'll absorb that too. We'll absorb that amount within our asset budget for each subsequent financial year, and including in our 15-year forward plans. So it's up to the staff then to work out where and when. That's our intention.
I just don't understand. It seems to be an imbalance to me that we're putting more into the assets to...
You're quite right, Councillor McCleary. That's why you're speaking against this. Yeah. Speaker 4. Councillor, question. I know Councillor Giles is itching to speak. Councillor Jones.
I've got 2 questions. Is it correct that there are at least 3 reports relating to cycleways and footpaths that are already in the council's hand? And is it likely that all future footpaths will be built to dual-use path specifications?
The answer to the first question is yes. The answer to the second question I'll flick to the CEO.
Through Mr Mayor, the intent is to try and build them all as dual-use pathways as we go forward. Obviously there may be some areas where that can't be achieved, but the intent is to try and make them all dual-use pathways.
Councillor Giles used to speak for this.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As you know, I've been very passionate about this issue coming into the budget. I was very disappointed to find that we weren't going to be building any new pathways for significant pathways for quite some time. It is reassuring to know now that as of last Tuesday, as I believe, paths can be used as cycleways, which is great, but it doesn't really help for people who don't have either. So I would really urge you to think about this very carefully to support the motion. I do believe that it can be managed within the budget of maintaining and building new pathways. In my time as council, which I know is only 2.5 years, but most of the ratepayer requests that I get are about footpaths. And I would like to draw your attention to a couple. I've had many, but a couple of ones that I've really taken to heart. There was one from from ratepayer in Glen Iris, and he was very concerned that there was no path and Jubilee Road through the farmers market, and he was saying that he watched many he's disabled, and he watched many disabled people and mothers with prams trying to get to the farmers market, and it wasn't ideal. So I put this forward to the council, and I actually got a response. And the response was, it is acknowledged that the current footpath configuration does not provide for the most direct route to the Bunbury Farmers Market entry from Jubilee Road. Further investigation into providing a more direct footpath link from the eastern side of the Bunbury Farmers Market could be investigated. Overall, on Jubilee Road, there is not an extensive footpath extending to the Bunbury Farmers Market, which would be a walkable destination for Glen Iris residents. Now, I find that appalling that we've got that wonderful farmers market there, and the Glen Iris residents, who don't get much from council overall, can't even get a decent footpath to walk to there to do their shopping, mothers with prams and people with disabilities. Last week or the week before, at the Heritage Advisory Group Committee, we received a letter from a ratepayer in Stirling Street Heritage Precinct from Del Ambrosius, who went through a whole lot of other issues, but one of the main issues there is that they talked about underground power not being suggested, and new footpaths for this very high pedestrian traffic area have taken more than 15 years and are yet to be completed. Now, I bring these to your attention because this is the sort of thing that people get very annoyed about. We can pander and make concessions to the big end of town, which we've just done in the previous motion. We can make concessions, we can facilitate development, but we really need to worry about the community and their facilities. People in Glen Iris, Berry Park and all those other places, they're not interested in, they're not going to gain anything from a hotel development or things like that. They want footpaths where they can walk their children safely to school or ride their children safely to school, get to the shops with a trolley or a pram. And I really think this is one of our core business. This is our core business, and we should be really supporting this. Thank you very much.
Councillor Giles, you'll find that most of the footpaths we have within the city do connect houses to schools and houses to main activity centres. However, we're talking about money in the forward estimates here. So, is there another speaker against? Question, Councillor McGuinness.
My question is just to clarify this position that we're talking about now of the 1% and 250. I'm supportive of the motion, the amended motion, but I'm still unclear about the 1% being 360, around 360,000 per year. The way that this is worded, are we now saying that 250,000 of that 360 would be committed to footpaths, leaving 110,000 for capital? For the rest of our capital replacement program.
At the budget meeting, which will be towards the end of July, we'll adopt the rate, and if the 1% is there, it's there, and which we've agreed to in principle so far.
Sure.
So that'll add 1% of rates, which is going to be around 360,000 into our asset works. The fact that 1 kilometre, according to our engineers last week, 1 kilometre of footpath is about $260,000. So whichever way you look at it, it's $260,000 cash that we need to find to build an extra 1 kilometre. But as I said earlier, we already do build some footpaths through under other programs, so it may not be as much as that.
Great. Thank you.
Councillor Morris speaking against.
When we're talking about dual use, we really haven't had an answer in relation to renewal of poor level of footpaths. Would it have to be replaced for dual use? And if it is, would the rate go up from the $250,000 to a higher amount if we have to replace dual use, seeing that the state government has now allowed bicycles to be on footpaths? So if that's the case, and we take a look at risk management within our city, having a footpath that's unlevel, having just a small rise and someone trips and falls, that is in fact our liability. And if we're having to have an extra income or an extra expenditure going to dual use because bicycles are now allowed to use footpaths, I feel that the 2-year suspension of increasing the network would be valid if we're going to be doing up and replacing the footpaths that are in desperate need of replacing. I'm all in favor of having everybody having a footpath without any worry whatsoever. What worries me is the footpaths that we have now, and it causes injury, because we are in fact liable if there's an injury done on a footpath that's not kept up to standard. So this is one reason why I'm all in favor of putting the money into getting it up to scratch and then moving on to increasing the network.
Further speaker 4, Councillor Hayward.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to pick up a couple of points there. I believe that we were told last week that $260,000 kilometre was the dual use footpath, so that is the correct cost. It's not going to be escalated. There is our staff over there are already thinking about how they can massage the asset budget to make this work. That's how good they are, and I have total confidence that they will be able to deliver this without seeing the city broke. Again, I just want to remind you, $30 million I think we raise in rates, and we're looking at spending an extra $250,000. It's not really very much money in comparison to what we're collecting, and I think it makes a big difference to people out there on the streets. If we're worried about, I don't want to see anybody trip over any footpath, but people can trip over a good footpath that there's no risers on, and I'm not minimising our responsibility there, but I am noticing that in places like Nedlands, they've still got the old ones around, so maybe we're not in such a big rush to have to do it all in 8 years. Maybe we can put some more money into building some, and the guys, our staff can work out, our officers can work out how to make that happen. But I'd urge you to support it. I think it's a good motion. I think it'll have a good outcome for our community. Thank you.
All in favour, please indicate. Those against? 1 against? 2. That's carried. Thank you. We move on to 10.2.7. Now, councillors, I beg your pardon. We've got one more item to go. Councillor Cook, thank you. Weeds. One more, Sam, sorry. Recommendation number 2. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Miguel, is there a seconder? Councillor Warnock. Councillor Miguel. Councillor Warnock. Speaker against. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, I urge you to vote against this recommendation before you. I will be offering an alternate motion which suggests that we can provide $50,000 provided it's taken from proceeds of land sales in the Big Swamp precinct. Big Swamp is being choked by weeds, and although $18,612.50 was spent in the 2015-16 year, little impact has been made. The Friends of Big Swamp continue to do a terrific job, and they're very much supported by our excellent environmental staff. It remains, however, that the project requires an injection of funds to make a real difference. If funds are realised from land sales, the long-term financial plan will not be impacted. Mr Mayor, elected members, I urge you to vote against this and accept my alternate recommendation. Thank you.
Speaker for.
Excuse me, sir, can I just
ask a question?
Yes, can I ask that I make a further amendment to that if we get grant funding of 50%, that this motion be supported as a pro forma? Because the way the motion reads is that council not support the funding of the Big Swamp eradication unless it's $50,000, unless it's 100% grant funded. Yeah. And I would think, sir, that we should go at least to government with at least half.
I'll allow an amendment, Councillor Stick, if you wanted to move an amendment that way.
Yes, please, sir.
So your change is to unless 50% grant funded. Is there a seconder to that? That lapses. So we go back to Councillor McGuell and Warnock's motion, and Councillor Cook has spoken against. Is there a speaker for?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Councillor Hayward?
Just wondering whether $50,000 will actually solve the problem at the Big Swamp, and for what period of time it's likely to solve the problem for.
Councillor Hayward, that amount was inserted by, or suggested by Councillor Cook as part of our elected members' contribution to the budget. So that's where that figure came from. Speaker for. Councillor McGraw, close.
Mr Mayor, just picking up on what Councillor Cook raised about bringing the funds out of any land sale within that area. I believe we've already basically said that that's something we're going to do. We're going to spend any money that does go from sale in that area. So I don't think that's something we need to include in this motion. This motion, again, is purely taking our officer's advice. There are already some stuff in play, and for me, I don't think this needs to be included in our budget. So I'd urge you to support that.
I'll put it all in favour. Please indicate. Those against? Seven, 6. Thank you. It's carried. Councillor Morris. Mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Seconder, Councillor Hayward. Any debate on this one? I'll put it all in favour. Those against? 1 is carried. Thanks very much. Councillors, 10.2.7. As the staff have not given any guidance here, I'm aware Councillor Cook has a motion. It's my intention to try and convince you that we move to sitting fee structure, where you attend meetings, you get paid, you don't attend, you don't get paid. Let's have that discussion. Councillor Cook, I invite you to move your... I'll take these individually, by the way, councillors, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Councillor Cook, you've submitted your proposal.
Yeah, no problem, Mr Mayor. Councillors, my proposal is based on the executive recommendations, and I've just added in the under item 2, 27,500 per annum, and payable monthly in 12 equal proportions. On item 3, $36,875 per annum payable monthly in 12 equal portions. And item 4, $75,000 per annum payable monthly in 12 equal portions.
Is there a seconder?
I'll seek a seconder.
Councillor Giles. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The figures I have suggested, and I acknowledge Mr Scafidi and his concerns. The figures I've suggested are 25% over our existing allowances, and some things I'd like to mention. The State Salaries and Allowances Tribunal have recognised that Bunbury should be a Tier 1 city, similar to Busselton, Albany, Geraldton and others. I would argue that Bunbury should have always been Band 1. We've not taken a rise in attendance fees in 3 years. If we assume 2.5% increase for each of these 3 years and add in 12.5 for the band change, I think it entirely reasonable the extra 25% is warranted and well earned. The 7,500 that I've suggested is 12.3% less than the maximum allowance of $31,364. Whilst I agree that we need to be constrained in all matters financial, we also need to compensate properly elected members for the time and effort that they put into the role. Also, it is not all about us. It's about attracting good candidates for the October 2017 election. Young people need to be encouraged to work a 4-day week and spend the other 3 days of the week working on council business. For this to happen, they must be compensated financially. I do have a great deal of sympathy for the argument that allowances should be paid on attendance, not as a routine payment. The fact is, though, that being an elected member is not just about attending meetings. It's about community work, community interfacing, preparation for meetings, researching community needs and feelings. If we're only paid on attendance, that would detract from our community and civic roles. At $27,500, and we assume the councillors contribute 35 hours per week spread over 7 days, that equates to $15.11 per hour. That is well below an adult retail assistant level 1 pay rate of $18.99 an hour. Probably time to pull out the old adage, pay peanuts and you get monkeys. Mr Mayor, councillors, I would urge you to support my motion. Thank you.
Councillor Cook, I'm going to speak against that. Yes.
I see we've moved number 1 there on the screen. Can I just assume that Councillor Cook has moved the whole...
He has, and I'll deal with each one.
Clarify this, Mayor.
Councillor Giles.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support everything that Councillor Cook has just said. I think we should have been Band 1, and therefore we've been underpaid for the last several years. I think we do work hard, and I think we do deserve some sort of compensation for that. And for those who do give up their time or work part-time, I think that's very necessary. I would also, I know you're going to speak about sitting fee per meeting. We have had that discussion with the CEO, well, I've had that discussion with the CEO, and my understanding is that if we went to that, we would actually get a decrease even if we attended every single meeting of the year. So I certainly don't support that, because we can't be paid for the briefing meetings because they don't come under the legislation. So it would only be for the meetings, and it's a maximum amount per meeting that we can have, and I think the CEO if I might get a nod from him or some acknowledgement that that is the case, that if we just took the maximum sitting fee, we would actually get significantly less than we actually do now. So I certainly wouldn't be supporting that. And I don't think anyone else around the room probably would either, but you never know. So I would support the fact that we do work very hard. We do give up a lot of our time. It's a very responsible job. We meet every single week. We have a meeting every single week, which a lot of councils do not do. We do not have a break during school holidays, and I think for all of those reasons, we do deserve a significant allowance increase. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Giles. I'm speaking against this, councillors. Simply put, I don't think, well, maybe I'm wrong. I'll speak for myself. I'm not here for the money, and I don't think any of you should be either. You should be here to represent your community and do your best you can. Councillor Cook, there is nobody in this room, including me, who works harder than you in your role as a councillor. You are extraordinary, the amount of work you do. Let me talk, Councillor Cook. I'm aware of the work that you do. I see the emails and I see the work and I see the contacts, and that's fine, and I appreciate how much time you dedicate to being a councillor, and I appreciate how much time many of you do dedicate to being a councillor. I would question the estimate of hours each week that each of us put in. I think you mentioned something like 35 hours. I'd question that strongly in the case of many of you, simply based on my observations from where I sit here. The community does not want to see an increase of that proportion, irrespective of any justification that some of you may feel. It is sending the wrong message to our community. They don't care about how many hours it takes to be an elected member of this council, how many hours it takes to research and prepare for meetings. They want you to represent their views in a very sensible, financially transparent and accountable way. You go ahead with an increase of this proportion, it's sending the wrong message to our community. And as I said earlier last week at the briefing, my desire is that there be no increase, and in fact we move towards a sitting fee basis. And just to counter Councillor Giles' point, if you attend all the council meetings and you attend committee meetings that you're elected to attend, there are committee meeting fees that are payable. They're $392 or thereabouts per committee. So if you attend those things that you put your hand up to attend, at the end of the year you're going to be slightly ahead of what the current payment is. So I'll end on that note and ask for a speaker for Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support Councillor Cook's motion. The service as a local government elected member has traditionally been viewed as a voluntary community service in WA, and while this is still the case, there is a need to ensure that serving on council is not restricted to members of the community who are financially independent. Serving on council as a councillor should not become, nor should it appear to be, employment. Serving on council must remain a community service. However, elected members should be appropriately compensated for their commitment of time, their contribution to the local government and their community service. To not compensate elected members appropriately restricts the pool of eligible candidates potentially to the detriment of the local government and local community. Under the current structure, some elected members opt not to receive fees and allowances payable to them. Whilst this is undoubtedly motivated by noble intentions, there may be unintended consequences. For example, this may put unfair peer group pressure on other elected members to not accept their fees and allowances, or it may cause the council to set fees and allowances at a minimum level. Another key principle is that elected members should be reimbursed for expenses that pertain directly to their role as an elected member. This is particularly relevant for elected members in the southwest, including Bunbury, where travel expenses, including travel to and from Perth to attend meetings with government agencies, can be significant. Anecdotal evidence suggests that in some local governments, a culture of elected members not claiming reimbursement for legitimate travel expenses has developed, and this could be another significant barrier to members of the community from standing for council. The role of elected members has evolved over the years and today requires a significant commitment of time and energy from elected members. A councillor gets involved in determining local government policies, developing and monitoring strategic plans and budgets, making sure the council resources are used fairly for the benefit of all community members, overseeing the allocation of local government finances and resources. The most obvious role of an elected member is participation in council and committee meetings, the decision-making processes of council. Elected members are reporting that this role is evolving to require a significant and growing time commitment. Not only is attendance and participation required, elected members must prepare for meetings by reading reports and agendas and attending briefing sessions. As the complexity of local government issues and functions increases, the reading and preparation time required of elected members is also increasing. Elected members are required to represent and liaise with the residents of the district. Activities of this nature, including attending meetings and functions of the community groups and on-site meetings with constituents, requires considerable commitment from elected members to ensure they are fulfilling their obligations to represent and provide leadership to their community. Councillors are expected to travel, speak publicly, and make decisions that are for the good of everyone in our local community. The City of Bunbury elected members achieve all of the above. Councillors, by supporting this motion, I know we will be protecting the future of our council to continue to be diverse and productive, working for the greater good of our community. It is without reservation I support the motions.
Further speaker against? Councillor Kelly. Did you have a question, Councillor Hayward?
I'd like to propose an amendment to the motion.
Yeah, well, I'll deal with each of them one by one,
yep.
And I'll come back to any amendments that we deal with. Councillor Kelly, speaking against.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Well, I just asked, firstly, we're going to take this separately, you just indicated, so I'll take them separately, Mr Mayor. Firstly, I support number one.
Okay.
But however, I will speak against 2, 3 and 4. For a start, number 2, and I've got an alternative motion for these if these happen to, this proposal happens to be defeated, Mr Mayor, but I'll get to that. I note that the minimum in the band of annual attendance fees in the band 1, which we are now, and we should have been for some time in my view also, I agree with that, is about 11% increase on what we received prior under band 2. We were on 22,000. The minimum that we can go, by the way, in band 1 is 24,360. I understand that that's just, we don't have a choice about that because that's the minimum in the band. It's 11% increase on the 22,000, so I'm quite happy to stick with that minimum, and that figure will replace the 27.5 if this proposal is defeated. 3 and 4, Mr Mayor, I believe quite firmly that the current status quo for the Mayor's position is the right amount for the Mayor to be paid at this particular time. So in number 3, the figure is replaced by 29.5, which is as it stands, and in number 4, it's replaced by 60, which is as it stands. So councillors, essentially, in the environment of fiscal responsibility that we exist, I believe that we can demonstrate some responsibility by, yes, accepting an 11% pay rise for councillors on the basis that that takes us into band 1, and we must do so, and to retain the mayoral allowance as it is without any increase. To demonstrate what the Mayor has said. He said he's quite happy to leave it as is, and if the motion as Councillor Cook has proposed, number 1 I support, 2, 3 and 4 I won't. On 2, 3 and 4 I'll provide an alternative figure for those numbers there, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Speaking 4, Councillor Steck.
Thank you, sir. Without being insulting, sir, if you said you weren't here for the money, but you said you also paid fuel of $27.89 or something thereabouts. So that would hardly get you to Perth and back. So I don't know what the fuel is for other than coming to the meetings in this chamber. And for me personally, I'm on committees where I go to Brook, I go to Busselton, I go to Collie, I go to everywhere. And for 4 years, I haven't, and in fact, all the time I've been on council, I haven't charged a cent for all the fuel that I travel. Not even for my car, nothing. So for the argument of saying $27.89 or whatever to come to here to say you're not in it for the money, well, guess what? I've been a single mum and I've raised 4 kids on my own, and I've done council for 12 years. 12 years. I've had to give up sports carnivals. I've had to give up lots of different things, even taking my daughter to dance rehearsals, going to training for sports. I've done it all, and I got criticised because they said mums should be at home. That's what I've had for 12 years or more. And you know what? It was because I defended community, and my love for community is as much as I love my kids. And I do it for the love of community. I don't need to be charged for it, but if I was going to say, do you need remuneration for it? Yes, you do, because at some point it does cost you a fair bit of money and time. But if you're not in it for money, donate your whole paycheck.
I just about do.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point. The whole point is we all donate our time. We all donate a lot of things. And like I've said, in 12 years, ask me, how much has council cost me? And I can tell you it's cost me a lot. Personally, professionally, and even financially. But why do I do it? Why do I do it? Because people can pick up the phone to me and go, Shell, I need your help. Shell, can you do this for me? And you know what? Sometimes you've got to go, look, I can't really do that, but I can point you in the right direction. That's what council's about. Yes, it's about the budget. Yes, it's about putting things together for community. Yes, it's about all of those things. But I can damn sure as tell you this. It has been a pleasure for me to serve people for 12 years, an absolute pleasure. And even sometimes my kids go, Mum, why do you do it? Even my mother said, Mum, I'm sorry, Shell, why do you do it? And I have to defend myself to go, because my community is important to me, and if we all didn't care, then why are we all here? That is the one point that I'll say to all of you.
Councillor McGrail speaking against.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. It's a very interesting situation we have here, obviously voting on our own paychecks. I know most employees in the world who would like that opportunity to decide what they get paid. That's why we're speaking against this. Firstly, I'd like to point out I don't agree with the Mayor having meeting fees. I think, as Councillor Cook-Riley said, it's not about the meeting and turning up, and I am on quite a few subcommittees, which I do enjoy, and that's beside the point. I think it is the more the routinely stuff that happens on a week-to-week basis, so I'd like to get out there that it's definitely at monthly equally payments I'd like to see. However, as Councillor Kelly pointed out, he'll be moving an amendment that we go for the minimum. I'll certainly be looking to go for that as well. We've been reclassified as Band 1, so the minimum is basically what all we can take, in my opinion. It's still an increase of what we're currently getting, and I think this year, more than importantly than any other year that I've been involved with the budget that we've just made, and the timing. Last week we made back a number of cuts and asked our community to make back a number of cuts. So if we then go and take a 30% pay hike, it looks pretty average, and I wouldn't be able to look at our community and look them in the eye and say, oh yeah, no, well, you guys can take back. So that's my opinion on that. There's been a lot of people saying that it'll be good, it'll create new candidates or better candidates, but quite frankly, we're voting on for the next 12 months, so we can bring that argument up in next July if we really want to, and when the election is just around the corner, because right now we're talking about the next 12 months. It's going to be a particularly tough 12 months with the cuts we've just had, so I think we probably I'll be voting against this. I'll be supporting the minimum on a monthly basis, and I hope you guys will support that and see the logic behind that.
Further speaker 4. Councillor Hayward.
Is there any chance my daughter will speak against?
Are you the Mayor? No. She's right, no. I'll invite Councillor Cook to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think enough's been said.
Thank you. I'll put it all in favour, please indicate. Yeah, it's number one. All in favour of number one, we note the determination. Those against? One. Number two. All those in favour, please indicate. Six. Those against? That's lost. Councillor Kelly, you foreshadowed on Councillor Hayward, also foreshadowed an alternative.
I'm happy to second.
So Councillor Kelly, you're moving
24360 as a replacement figure, Mr. Mayor.
and Councillor Hayward seconds that. Is there likely to be any further debate on this, councillors? I'll put it. All in favour? Those against? One. It's carried. We go back to Councillor Cook's motion number 3. Those in favour, please indicate. Those against? That's lost. Councillor Kelly.
Mr. Mayor, replace that figure with 29,500.
Councillor Hayward, are you happy to second that?
Yes.
I'll put it. All in favour, please indicate. Those against? It's carried unanimously. Sorry, you're against? Councillor Cook's motion number 4. I'll put it. Oh, sorry, Liz. There we go. Number 4, please. Those who are for, please indicate. Those against? That's lost. Councillor Kelly.
Replace that figure with 60,000, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ho, are you happy with that? I'll put it. All in favour. Those against? That's carried. Thank you. 10.4.1, Councillor Steck. Councillor, yep, you're leaving. Can I have someone move this matter, please? 10.4.1. Thank you, Councillor McCleary. Second up. Councillor Giles. Any debate? I'll put it. All in favour. Those against? 2 against. That's carried. Thank you. Item 11.1. Move Councillor Jones, seconded Councillor Steele. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, thank you for your attendance this evening. I declare the meeting closed at 6:32 p.m. We can all go and watch the budget.